Hey everybody, welcome. It's another office hours. We're here on every Tuesday. We're here on every Tuesday. I don't like any of those words. Here every Tuesday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, to answer your questions about voice interfaces, certification, all the things that go into building cool stuff for Alexa. And I have Scott and Ryan with me here with me as I do almost every week. So welcome, guys.
Hi. Happy Thanksgiving week.
Happy American
here in the States,
Thanksgiving. Yes.
I'm very much looking forward to it.
So I restarted my crazy no sugar, no flour diet a couple weeks ago.
That's right.
And no sugar and no flour are not things that go well with a Thanksgiving feast, even in the slightest. So I'm gonna have some turkey and a lot of vegetables.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
So I've been on like almost not every, but almost every little like fad or not. I don't want to say I'm hesitant to say fad. It's not a fad, but like I've done every kind of like diet and stuff. The most success I've ever had was just a non-processed diet. Just eat whatever you want, but it cannot come from a box or a bag or anything. It has to be made by your hands.
But the only good cranberry sauce comes out of a can.
Oh, you know.
I don't know. I'm not a big fan of cranberry sauce, so I can't really argue that point.
Fair.
Does that have sugar in it, though? I feel like that might have sugar in it.
It's all sugar. That's all it is. It's just nothing but sugar.
What is happening?
There are some cranberry lookalikes in there.
Yes.
What I'm probably going to do is just put this diet on pause for an afternoon.
Oh.
I will tell you, since I started this 2 weeks ago, I'm down 9 pounds.
Oh,
so,
hey.
Wow. Nice.
70-30.
Nice.
You know, like we're humans. So the biggest failure point for when it comes to watching what we eat is our own like anger at ourselves for being mad for violating a rule or something. 70-30, like 70% of the normal of the diet and 30% is fine.
Uh-huh. I'm a firm believer that we have a finite amount of willpower each day.
Mm-hmm.
And if you spend it all doing certain things like not yelling at your colleagues or whatever, then you're gonna go gorge yourself on horrible food. And so I'm using literally all of my willpower on.
Yeah, so you're just gonna be yelling at all of us all day today. It's just gonna be
shut up, Scott. No, I'm
angry.
That's why when you have little kids, you can gain weight very easily. I agree with that. That's a very good theory, Jeff.
So easy. All right, we have a couple of awesome comments in here already. Benjamin Anderson on YouTube said, I've got my Echo Show 15 on pre-order. I can't wait to develop with that thing December 9th. For those of you that missed that announcement somewhere, somehow, the Echo Show 15 did drop. You can find it on Amazon.com. I highly recommend, unless you want to cut walls open, I highly recommend getting the stand that is sold separately so that you can prop it up on a shelf or a countertop or something like that. But that is shipping to be delivered December 9th. And I have my
order in.
Very excited. Yep. Have you guys ordered one?
I do. I have my pre-order out. December 9th is when mine should be delivered as well.
Nice.
I'm trying to decide if I want to do the which view I want to do. If I want to do the horizontal or vertical view.
That's going to be the trick.
I plan on mounting it back here.
If I go to this view, I think Grogu is going to move somewhere else. And I think I'm going to put it there. So it's kind of up and elevated and kind of in sight. I don't know that that's actually going to happen, but
I think I'm going to test it. I think I know that we have the ability to like just get one for testing, just so that we can, you know, if somebody writes in and says, hey, I have this thing, it doesn't work, I can go grab that device and then test it on that thing.
Right.
I don't know, like I haven't put in a pre-order yet because I doubt that I'll get one, but I'm pretty sure I'll just get a test device.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's what this whole library is, right? I mean, I have the Echo Show 10 sitting here. I've got a bunch of other devices, and the purpose of all of those is exactly what you're describing, to be able to test and identify issues with skills or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so, I'm pumped for the 15 though. I think that's I get the test device, right? Get to use it, play with it, and then that's when my wife's like, we need one of those in the kitchen, and I'm like, all right, cool.
That's what I'm afraid of happening too. But that's a good problem, I guess.
Yeah, it is a good problem. All right, so that's that. Barack Dreschler says, I have a few ACDL Alexa conversations questions. with ACDL, what is the difference between a sample and a dialogue? On the UI, it seems we only have dialogues and no samples. So this is the poor understanding I have, and I am by no means a master at Alexa conversations, but I'll share with you. I'm going to kick back to this view. I'll share my. I look so short when I sit down. I'll share my perspective on this, and then if Scott or Ryan have anything to add, we can do that. The idea of Alexa conversations is that you define a set of dialogues, conversations that you expect the user to want to have, and you build samples into those dialogues that are representative of the things that a user would say, much like the sample utterances that you see with interaction model. And those trigger specific dialogue experiences inside Alexa conversations. The difference between the two is that with a traditional interaction model, you have to build all of the flow and interaction and handle what happens in the code, where Alexa conversations actually uses machine learning to identify what is the conversation that should be happening now based on what the user said. And it shifts and moves to those conversations as the user pivots. So you're actually using machine learning to drive machine learning. That is the primary difference. But you're asking me specifically, what's the difference between a sample and a dialogue? Dialogue should be representative of what Alexa is going to say. Samples should be representative of what a user is going to say. I think that's the difference in my mind. Do you guys have anything extra to add to that?
I need to look up the actual definitions of these terms. But the UI does actually have dialogues and samples inside of it. So a dialogue would be, you can go in and create a dialogue, which is kind of like the back and forth. User says something, Alexa says something, user says something, Alexa says something. Like that back and forth will be creating different dialogues. Now, for each time that the user says something, you tie that to, in the UI, what they call an utterance set. And I know ACDL has some different vocabulary for some of these things. So I'm just going off the UI, which is what I've used mostly. So you would tie what the user says to an utterance set. And when you go into that utterance set, you provide a bunch of sample utterances. So you provide a bunch of samples that the user could say as one line in the dialogue. And so then that's how the machine learning is able to tie. So you definitely want to add as many samples as is reasonable for each of the different utterance sets. So each of the different lines that a user could say in a dialogue, you provide samples for that. So then the machine learning can pull that in and do its voodoo stuff that machines do.
Perfect. Paul Cutzinger is here in the chat with us, and he is agreeing. Yeah.
Oh, cool. If I got Paul's approval, then that's golden. Paul's the man.
There's also a conversation, and Ryan, you and I were talking about this right before. So Paul, if you're listening, this is a good one that I'd love for you to help us track down. I saw Brian post this in the Alexa community Slack this morning. This is my sidebar. If you are not in the Alexa community Slack, you should join. It's a great place to have a conversation. Reach out to folks like me and other folks inside Amazon to hopefully get some of your answers that you're looking for. But it's a great community of people that are all building some cool stuff. Anyway, enough about that. The question is, Alexa, when using the Amazon emotion tag in SSML, has been broken for at least a week now. Instead of speaking with emotion, the responses are garbled and unintelligible. Several of us have created tickets and so far crickets from Amazon. Since no error is reported to the skill, I didn't notice the error until I saw my traffic fall off a cliff. He said his traffic is down 81%. That's awful. I'm sorry to hear that. Can we get any update on what's going on? Any chance I can get some skill promotion to make up for my lost users? Well, I don't have answers to either of those, actually. I don't have an update because I actually hadn't heard about this until you mentioned it. So this is not something that I've seen escalated inside our organization. But what I'll ask you to do, Brian, and I meant to ask you on Slack earlier today, is if you have one of those tickets that you've created, if you can send that over to me, I would love to see that, and we can escalate from there and push it through the folks on Scott's team. Scott, have you heard anything about this?
No, I've not. I was just trying to think about like the things. There have been a couple things that have popped up recently. Like it seems like there are some issues with SVS testing within the console, but that's the only trend that we've been seeing lately. So it might be a unique issue, which is good because it's not good, but it's good because we can go and look at it and find it and fix it. But if it's like happening to multiple people, that's when we all start to get a little bit nervous. So, but yeah, definitely, yeah, exactly what Jeff just said. Just give us that ticket and let's go. Let's go find it. That's what we're here.
Brian, I don't know if you've sent it yet, but I don't have Slack on this machine. But if you send me your ticket number, I'll pass that off to Scott and the folks over there, and we'll get it figured out. Oh, and Scott, you just answered the next question. The next question came from A Wooders on Twitch, and it was, is Scott on fire? I see smoke or maybe steam from coffee. It turns out you're not on fire. It's just a toasted cup of
This is the mug that I got from a China company. It's called this is actual China. It's called Things Could Be Worse. Nice. There's there's little monsters in there, and this is the Santa Claus edition. You can see there's a pterodactyl.
I like
a
the
robot destroying the town and stuff. Yeah, I got my fiance a whole tea set because she's been looking for a tea set for years, and this is the one that only could possibly fit her.
I think it's perfect.
Yeah,
awesome.
And it's a remarkable amount of steam. Is that related at all to the non-insulated home you live in?
Likely. Yeah, it's likely. It's only, although I will say it's only like 60 degrees in here this morning, so that's nice. I managed to get a fire going.
That's 60 is delightful. I think I have my thermostat set at 67, so it's not that far off.
Yeah,
but
it's crazy.
60's cold, no doubt.
Yeah, it's hard to get out of bed in the morning. I know. I look out at my room, just look at the air, and I know it's going to be so cold.
For sure. It was this morning I had to take my son to school. He and I worked on a Rube Goldberg machine for his science project right before Thanksgiving.
Ooh, fun.
It's awesome. If I get a chance, I'll share the video with you guys. But in doing that, I had taken to school this morning. It was like 7:15. It was 22 this morning when I dropped him off. So like we're standing out there shivering, trying to get his big machine into a cart that he can wheel into the classroom. It was cold this morning for sure, and that's like mid-range cold for Ohio in like January. So 22 will look favorable at some point, but today it was cold.
Oh, and for people who are unfamiliar with Fahrenheit, you divide by 2, add 7, and I don't know how to convert Fahrenheit to Celsius, but it's like 20. I'm just guessing 20
Fahrenheit is probably like 6.
What? Yeah. Well, I don't know.
6. I think it's like 6 or 7 degrees Celsius.
I went to public school in America. I'm lucky I know how to read.
Public school in America doesn't teach you that there are other countries in the world.
That's right. Yeah. And like we don't.
But I will say,
I have our own math. It's fine.
We have so many sidebars here. I love it. I will say that one of the things I will argue about is that like I'm all for the metric system. Let's do it. Let's make it happen.
Join the rest of the world. Mm-hmm.
Except for temperature. I think that the world should adopt Fahrenheit. And the reason is
more dramatic
because if it's 100 degrees Celsius, you're dead. Right? Like there becomes this really narrow range. And so you end up having to talk about degrees as like 12.5 degrees or 14.7 degrees. And I feel like Fahrenheit is a better representation of the temperatures that we as humans experience than Celsius is. But I'm probably starting a flame war here in the chat. So who knows?
I'm not going to comment.
I like Fahrenheit. Otherwise, I'm all in on metric. All right. Paul Cutzinger says he started a diet also. Nothing that comes through a window and only buy things from the perimeter of the grocery store. No aisles.
Ooh.
If I think about the perimeter of my grocery store, you would get all the fresh produce. You would get a very extensive wine and beer selection. You would have all of the soda, and then you have all the paper products.
Like the meats, like the meat counters.
Well, no, the meat's kind of in the center. It's tacked on to like the front of the aisles. I don't know that I consider that the perimeter. You would get eggs and milk.
How did we get on the subject? I'm sorry. I felt like I did.
Paul said he's only buying things from the perimeter of the grocery store. No aisles.
Oh,
you have a weird grocery store.
I was like, did I have a stroke? What's happening?
You guys probably haven't heard of. It's called Meijer.
Oh,
No, I'm from Indiana originally.
Oh, that's right. You know.
I know Meijer.
Meijer. All right.
Yes.
Enough about that. Paul also says he won't call it Grogu. It's only Baby Yoda. He refuses to use the other.
I thought we could be friends, Paul.
Surprised. He's in Brazil on YouTube, and he says he was surprised that Amazon just doesn't send us devices for free.
Oh, yeah.
You clearly have not met Amazon, friend.
Yes. Whole frugality aspect of.
This is a good tip for anybody that's thinking about interviewing at Amazon in the near future. We have a series of things called leadership principles. There are now 14 of them. And in those 14 leadership principles, one of them is about frugality. These are the tenets that we like our employees to exhibit. Some of them are in conflict with each other. So it's a battle sometimes when you're trying to make decisions. But you try to use these as decision-making points. And frugality is a big one that people lean into a lot. And Amazon is traditionally a pretty frugal company. We don't go out and spend lavish amounts of money. In fact, we just got an email about buying apparel for our teammates. That is a no-no around the holidays, because a lot of people would like, oh, let's buy everybody a coat or do something fun for the holidays. Please don't do that. That's just an unnecessary cost. So those kinds of things you see all the time. So sending free devices out to people, not terribly good. Now, that being said, I did buy one, and I'm expensing it as a part of my need to be able to do my job. But it's not as if they're going to take everybody on the Alexa team and send them all a device. That would certainly not happen. But the one that I ordered is being expensed. I'm not paying for it myself. All right. So we got through what Paul said. Trade Last says hi.
Hi, Trade Last.
Hey.
Agency 2 says we have a couple of showstoppers with skill uses Amazon Pay. Developer account has to be the same as the invocation name, which creates a lot of overhead for us. So, Scott, I'll talk with you about this, but I have Agency 2 and I have had many, many conversations, and I've connected it with a bunch of folks inside Amazon that may or may not be as helpful as he would like, but we're making progress. Anyway, the challenge he has, and I didn't realize this, if you build a skill and it uses Amazon Pay, your developer account name has to be the same as your invocation name, or at least that's what he's being told. That feels weird to me.
No, that can't be right.
Well, this is the challenge that he is facing, is that he can't get his skill certified because that is what he's being told during certification.
Okay, so I know that there are a few different policies with Amazon Pay, but I also know that there are several developers that have a company name that. So when you start up your new developer account, you get the company name you put in there. A lot of people will accidentally put Amazon in there because they think it's Amazon. Yeah.
Sure.
So we have to have them change that, and we can change that. I have never heard of anything in which where it requires you to name your company name the same as your invocation name.
Right.
That doesn't make sense. And the reason why is because if you've got 15 skills, how are you going to do that?
Right.
So that doesn't make any sense.
I agree, I'm just telling you the feedback that I'm getting.
Yeah, no. And so I'm with you. I get that. So yeah, no, that's not right. I don't know. Like do a contact us ticket. I have no idea. Like send it into DAG. And into us, and then we will go and look into that. This I've never heard this before. It doesn't make sense. I think I doubt very much that is. Not that you're what he's saying is not real, but at the same time, like there's got to be a miscommunication somewhere. That can't be right. But yeah, we can fix that.
Okay. One of the other questions comes from Barack Dreschler on YouTube about ACDL again. Is there any way to pay to make the model build process faster? I think that's said somewhat tongue-in-cheek. No, there is no way to pay for that service, but I think just naturally getting the build process to go faster is not possible right now. If it could be faster, it would be faster. You're talking about building a machine learning engine that then can interpret and understand what a user says and continue a conversation based on the initial properties that you gave it. I think that's the best you're going to do. But Brock then qualifies that with, is there a way to pay to get support from Amazon on Alexa skills? I mean, I don't think you need to pay, but I suppose it depends on what he means by support.
Yeah, there are third-party companies that you can work through that offer their own update maintenance kind of schedule type thing. We have a bunch of them listed on our website.
We as a team do not have a paid support option.
Mhm.
We as a team don't really have the staff, the people, to provide one-on-one support to, we'll call it the general public, right? Like that, we're not staffed to do that. So what we can do is solve problems that you encounter, right? That's what folks like Scott and the DAG team do very well. The certification team can do a lot of those things, and those things are all free. But if you're looking for guidance and advice, like, hey, how should I do this thing? You can try and ask those questions in Contact Us, but I feel like what Scott said is kind of right. Like there are a bunch of third-party developers out there that would be happy to consult with you. I'm sure they would also be happy to take your money. And so it seems like the Alexa community Slack might be a good place to look for and recruit some people to help you kind of solve some of the issues you're running into. I mean, we as a team, the three of us, are here to answer your questions and do our very best, but like spending an hour or a week consulting with you and helping you solve stuff, that's just stuff that we're not equipped for, unfortunately. All right, Brian Tarbox sent an example of speech that's not working. I'm very curious. I want to try this. I'm going to go to the developer console, to the testing tool, and try this speech and tone. And get that to. Let's see if we can hear the garble he's describing. Let's go into a skill. You guys don't need to see here. I'm just going in and I'll let you hear the audio. Oh, where did the comment go? Let's see if I can get that. Nope. Nope, don't do that. Goodness, it's really hard to copy comments out of, we'll start there. Okay. English US, voice and tone. I'm gonna take this chunk here from Brian.
Alpha.
Whoa.
That's not good.
No, did you guys hear that?
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the emotion stuff off. Let's see if she'll say it. He just has like the phonetic alphabet in here, so that's what it's supposed to say.
Alpha Bravo Charlie Delta Echo
Wow.
Foxtrot Golf Hotel Indio Juliet Kilo Lima Mike November Oscar Papa.
That's enough of that. But that's very clearly an issue. Scott, if you were faced with this, who would you escalate that to?
It sounds like an NLU problem. It sounds like something that the NLU team needs to look at because it's about language and recognition. So I would put that in the NLU team.
Okay.
I have a very large dog.
Whoa.
That's legit.
Yeah.
He's talking back too. I love it.
Okay. Jaw work on Twitch. I've asked this on Slack. I'm trying to play a valid MP3 file in a progressive response using the audio source tag in Python. Simple speech works, but it fails when I add the audio source tag. Let's see. I'm trying to. This fails. He's creating a speak directive where speech equals speak. I really like pizza, and then an audio file, and then a closing speak tag. Yeah, I can put this whole thing on the screen if you guys want to see it. If I only use the audio source tag, it does an error, but it doesn't play the MP3 file either. So you're getting the error directive not valid. But you're saying in either case, it doesn't actually play your audio file for you. I would be one of the first things I do, Joel Work, is if you take the URL for your MP3 file and you just drop it in a browser tab. Does it play there? That's my first go-to on anything audiophile related. Is can I get direct access to that? And you didn't provide the whole address, which is fine. But it would be interesting to know if we can figure that piece out. Now, I haven't played with the Python SDK, so I don't. I'm not as familiar with the speak directive tag. Ryan, have you seen that?
Yeah, I was just looking that up right now. Trying to look for it to see what the details were. I verified that the audio tag is being used properly according to that.
Yeah, that looks right to me.
Yeah. I'm trying to find details on the speak directive.
Joe Work, I missed this one in the Slack, so if you want to just hit me up with a direct message on there, I'll see if I can't tweak this a little bit.
It looks like he's calling that correctly. Yeah, I could dig into this if you send it to me as well. I've been trying to create samples in Python as well as JavaScript, so we get a little bit more balanced with that.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Based on what you're showing here, that looks like it should work to me. And it's weird that it says the directive isn't valid. My only other thought here, and this is just a inclination, is that you're including the speak tag. I know on the node side of things, I never include that. It is automatically included as part of what as part of what gets created by the SDK automatically. So I would be curious if you took your code and took speech equals I really like pizza audio source with no opening and closing speak tags. I generally don't see those used in any of this. I don't know if that's the problem or not, because then you do say later you're sending just the audio source tag. I don't know if you were shorthanding it there and maybe you are still sending the speak tags, but try it without those and see if that doesn't help. I think that's my guidance for now. Scott, we've actually got a ticket ID here from Gavin Watson on Facebook. He said, if we're chasing tickets, can you take a look at one that's causing significant issues with audio skills not working? Certain devices will only play the audio stream once when the skill is enabled, and the audio stream never plays again. It seems to be random in which devices are impacted. And then there's a ticket ID there. Do you see that one?
Is it in the private chat
for you if that's easier?
Yeah. Oh, there it is. Okay, let me write that down. Can you put it in the private chat?
Not easily, actually.
Fine, let me grab it. I just need a number there. 9.
The StreamYard is very difficult to copy out of.
86051. All right, I got the ticket.
And last week when I changed tabs, I dropped out completely, so I'm like terrified.
All right. So Ryan will look into. I'm sorry, Scott will look into that one for you, Gavin. We'll see what we can find. See what progress has been made so far. I just caught up to the part where we were talking about temperatures, and everybody says you should ask Alexa to convert your temperatures for you. Well, of course I should.
She does that?
Apparently.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Of course I knew that.
Sure.
What's Alexa?
This is an interesting one that I have no answers for. Dorina on LinkedIn says, could I ask what are the most interesting features you are creating for Alexa? I guess we should be somewhat transparent in this. The three of us are not creating anything for Alexa. We have a lot of ideas and recommendations, but ultimately there's an entire product team, of which Paul Cutzinger, who's here in the chat, is a major part of. But the answer I can give for interesting features you're creating for Alexa, I personally am building myself an Alexa casino, right? So an entire voice-enabled kind of casino. That's something that I'm building, but it's not. I'm building a skill the same way that any of you could build a skill. I'm not building new features like a new voice or a new language or something like that. That's an entirely separate team of folks we interact with on an almost daily basis. But that's the coolest thing I'm building right now. Other than the chicken coop, Ryan, or do you have anything else you're working on that's cool?
Yeah, I'm working on a new, so what we also do is we put together things like I'm putting together a new workshop to help people like you learn how to build with Alexa. But again, it's all just instructional, and there's no new functionality being delivered with that.
Right.
That belongs to people who are way smarter than me to go and add new stuff. I almost said Jeff too, but I didn't want to include Jeff. And
they're definitely smarter than me. I'm pretty sure you're smarter than me. It's fine.
Yeah. But the skill that I'm working on, personally, just as an example, is one where I'm actually taking office hour videos from YouTube and running them through Amazon Transcribe and Comprehend to pull out the text and the language, putting that into, currently it's Elasticsearch, and then creating a skill where I can say, tell me about, or, find an office hours where we talked about Alexa conversations, and it'll pull in a series of those.
Right.
So,
and not only that, it'll show you the exact sentence, and you can click on it. It takes you directly to that part of the video.
Yes, you'll start playing.
That was the most impressive part of the demo that I saw you build was that exact feature. So cool.
Yeah. And I'm just stitching together awesome things that AWS has, like Comprehend and such. Like those do all the heavy work. All I have to do is just stitch them together into a pipeline. Yep. But it's really cool.
Wow. That is really cool.
It is very cool. So Scott, there's a possibility people are going to find out about where you live, and like our last episode, they're going to search for the word bandit. They're going to find you.
This is true.
I'll be fine. That's fine.
Right. All right. So moving on, Beauty Bubble said that they're here and they want to let people know that they have 7 pucks set with a smart. I have one of the 7 pucks set with a smart plug that turns on the holiday dining room lights and decorations, plays Nora Jones Christmas, and is perfect for their house. That sounds like what I'm about to start working on. In fact, as my wife and I were driving through the neighborhood the other day, you could see, it was nighttime, you could see that there were a few houses that already have not only Christmas trees up in their house, but lit and like ready to go. And she's like, why did they get to have their tree up? And I was like, because we wait until after Thanksgiving. That's how it works. And she didn't like that response at all. But that weekend, this coming weekend, in fact, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, will be deck the house out, right? So lots and lots that kind of Alexa stuff, smart plugs, everything will turn on and off with like Merry Christmas or some kind of routine setup or something. So maybe we'll talk about that next week while I'm at reInvent. Ryan and I are going to be at reInvent next week. And is that next week? Are you kidding me?
Next week, yeah.
Oh, reInvent is next week. We'll do office hours live from reInvent someplace. We'll find a cool place to camp out and talk for an hour.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that, and I'll share some of the things that I did in my house for Christmas. Oxygen Box wants to know, and I'm not sure how much you guys have paid attention to this. This is a consumer feature called conversation mode. Not Alexa Conversations, something totally different, but conversation mode. The idea there is that the 3 of us are standing talking to each other, and then we need Alexa to say something. Conversation mode basically allows it to happen so that people can have a back and forth conversation with themselves, and sometimes including Alexa, without having to say the wake word. And what it's doing is using the audible sound that it hears. This is my understanding. This is a layperson's understanding. That it's using the ambient sound that it hears to recognize the difference between when you're talking to other people and when you're directing your speech at the device. And so without having to say, like, I won't say the word to set off your devices, but what's the weather? You can be like, hey, you know what? Maybe tomorrow would be a great day to go sledding. What's the weather outside? And it'll just recognize that, hey, you were asking me a question and I want to do that stuff. So Oxygen Box's question specifically is around, will that affect development? No, it should not affect your development at all. Everything should look exactly the same to you. It's just that we have found some sciencey ways to recognize when you're talking to the device without having the user say the wake word. That's really the key to all of it. Disha Harish Kumar on YouTube says, how to get started with Alexa skills. Thanks. Ryan, what do you recommend for folks?
Ooh, this is something I'm working on improving the whole experience on. My Currently, my favorite way is to first join Slack and ask questions there, because you'll find a great community there. But I think for me, there's a couple different tutorials that we have on the website. And if you do a search, you can easily find these. The most popular one is Cake Time. So if you do a search for Alexa Cake Time tutorial, this is a tutorial that'll walk you through from like basically starting from scratch with nothing to having a functional skill in your account. And it walks you through how to set up the invocation name, how to even create your developer account and get started. It's written in JavaScript or Node.js, but there's links so you can go find the Python source code as well. So if you prefer Python, you can do that. We also have, there's actually a great YouTube series called Zero to Hero, which is somewhat hard to find, unfortunately, that I think is really, really helpful as well. It kind of goes through the same skill, but it's video led, so you can follow along and watch. And then we have just a bunch of samples. So there's a GitHub organization. If you go to GitHub/Alexa-samples, there's a bunch of sample code that you can look at, so including like things from like how to implement certain functionality, but then also like fully functional skills that you can look through as examples. Those are my recommended ways of getting started right now.
Good advice.
You could also write in on to the DAG team and ask them and ask us. This is what we love to do. We love to help people get started. Just so you're aware, we will literally be your first point of contact for anything having to do with like certification stuff. If you need to navigate the certification process at all, if you're confused about how things get tested or like how long it takes, that kind of thing, ask us anytime. We're always open and always ready to answer those kinds of questions. The techie questions take a little bit longer because we have to do research. But other than that, yeah, we'd be happy to help you get started anywhere you want to go.
Very cool, Scott. So there's been a couple of conversations going on. I'm going to kind of skip over conversations that are happening in the background, but you guys haven't seen, Data Driven Skills did publish a book called Building Data-Driven Alexa Skills. I can't remember. I'm blanking on the title right now, which I apologize for. I'm going to get that right here. I just tweeted about it a couple days ago. And now I can't remember what the title of the book is, like official title. It's close to what I just described.
Every time you type, I feel like I've been thrown back in time to a 1920s office.
Love it.
I'm listening to a typewriter clacking away.
The book is called Data Driven Alexa Skills, and he was kind enough actually to include me in the acknowledgments, which I thought was super nice.
Awesome.
Actually, it was me and Justin Jeffress. So he's been around a while because Justin hasn't been here on office hours and some of this stuff for at least a year. But it was very, very nice. And Data Driven Alexa Skills is now available if you guys are looking for a book, maybe for the holidays. All right. Some other things that came through here. People were talking about the audio file not playing, and people are debugging some of that stuff. And then I thought this was interesting. And this is for you, Scott. Frank Programmer was talking to Agency 2, who was the one that had the issue with the Amazon Pay. I have to name my skill, what my invocation name is. Mm-hmm. And Frank Programmer on Twitch said that he has the exact same issue and has run into that same problem.
Name your skill the same as the invocation, or name your company the same as your invocation?
Your invocation name has to match your company name. Thought that was interesting. I was hoping that was just kind of a one-time thing. He said we had to name the skill the same as the company name. Now, that's another interesting twist. And Frank, please clarify.
That's slightly different. Yeah,
Frank,
that's different.
He said name the skill.
Yeah.
Which still feels weird.
Yeah.
But
currently the way it works is like you can have your publicly facing skill name be whatever you want. Like right. It can be flapjacks, but your invocation name is the pancake machine. It doesn't have to be
jacks, right?
Which, first of all, that sounds like an amazing skill.
Seriously.
I don't know. I just made that up off the top of my head, but I want to make it now. But your publicly facing name was like, the idea behind that would be that for you know, it'd be for a skill that might belong to a product that is hard for Alexa to understand, pronounce, or if like the words are too like, you know how they like a brand name will have 3 words jammed into one word, and so you can't. That's not English, so like it doesn't work. So we have to publicly name it something so that people can find it. But the invocation name can be whatever you want it to be. Like that, it can be you can change that invocation. So, but again, I know that policies tend to be a little bit weird sometimes when it comes to very specific ones. And the fact that you guys are pointing out that it's Amazon Pay skills gives me pause. So what I will say is that the company name matching the invocation name doesn't make sense to me. Right. The publicly facing skill name matching the invocation name does make sense to me, but I still can't see why they would do that. But at the same time, that makes a lot more sense than the company name one. So I'm going to kind of lean towards that one being what we're talking about. Because again, company name can be anything. If you have 35 skills, you can't have them all be the same, you know, right. So
the trick that Agency 2 has is that he is a company building skills for restaurants.
Yeah.
And so his developer name, his company name, does not match in any way, right? Like if he's building the skill for Chipotle, can't have his developer name match Chipotle.
Right.
Because then you have to change it for when I'm just making this up, but then you have to change it when he does the one for Burger King or McDonald's, you know, whatever. Like it just doesn't
make sense.
So I guess Agency 2 is saying, like Frank said, he maybe create multiple accounts, right? So you have a different developer account for each single one, which also sounds awful.
Well, so I always recommend that to be done if you're developing a skill for someone else.
Yeah,
I recommend that you do that anyway.
Agreed.
But yeah, like you're saying, like it doesn't make sense. You'd have to make a new account for every single skill. It doesn't make sense.
Right.
Yep. So Barack Dreschler has come back and said something like how AWS has paid support. He would like to be able to pay for Alexa support in the same way. Mm-hmm. Gavin Watson says he also supports a paid support tier.
Mm-hmm. This is actually a subject that my team talks about quite a lot. We're the public support. So for Alexa, so the idea of a paid tier coming in has been floated around quite a bit. There are a lot of factors behind it. Many are like way above my pay grade. But I know that it's something like, I feel like Alexa is very organic. It might be more organic, like developing for Alexa might be more organic than anything else. That's just my opinion. I feel like we have to have a lot of conversations about Alexa.
Yeah.
And so like that kind of thing really costs a lot of money. When you spend a long time on a subject with someone and you're racking up those billing hours, it doesn't, I don't know. I feel like they're trying to make this not be so mechanical. I think they want us to all talk. I think they want us to, and believe me, there have been a ton of things that we've tried to get going to get the developer community more active. And the pandemic just kneecapped everything.
Right.
We had so many plans for in-person meetups and just cool conventions and stuff that we could get this kind of thing started, and then the pandemic hit and we're all like, okay, well, that's that. So I hear you. You know what? I'll absolutely pass this on. This is something that I like to bring things up in meetings. I don't always have everything to bring up in meetings. Right. So this is one of those things that I'll definitely bring up.
Hey, it just occurred to me, we were thinking about the Python developer. I forget what their name was, but the Python developer that couldn't get an audio file to play. One of the other things that I don't know why I didn't cross my idea or my brain sooner is that MP3s being played through Alexa have a very specific requirements about their formatting and encoding. And I see some people talking about that here in the chat. I haven't gotten far enough to see if that was solved, but it looks like Leighton Franco says, it has to be a specifically formatted MP3, and then Oxygen Box says, is the audio formatted correctly?
Yeah, that's a thing. I'm
so
not technical.
There are specific requirements. It looks like somebody provided the link to that because it's like a 16,000 bit rate, and there's or maybe it's 48 kbps bit rate, and then there's another number that's 16,000 that you have to hit also. And I have found that too. Like if you just go grab an MP3 off of some website, or even if you make one yourself, if it's not encoded to those specific parameters, Alexa won't play it. And so that almost certainly is probably your issue too. Okay, moving on. Last question on my part for ACDL. We noticed that the model can transition you from one dialogue to another, but also it was able to transfer us to a random spot within the dialogue. What are the constraints that define to which part of the dialogue it can jump? Well, this is that machine learning problem, right? So as we define our dialogues and our samples, we need to have a robust enough set of examples for the machine learning engine to be able to make those determinations. But it does mean that it can jump into the middle of a conversation or a dialogue, I should say. It does mean that it can jump from one to the other on turn by turn. So I would recommend evaluating, and you can, I don't remember if they have a testing module for this. I know on the interaction model side they do, where you can actually build like voice test runs. Have you seen that for conversations? Where you can build like a pre-built set of things, and if I say this, I expect this to be the outcome, and then you can verify whether or not that actually is.
Good question.
I don't think Conversations has that yet. But I would recommend looking at your samples to make sure that you have a robust and representative set of samples that will match most of the cases that you're expecting. But there isn't a way specifically to just control it. Like you're putting it in the hands of Alexa Conversations based on the data that you've provided it. So
yeah,
that's my tip.
That testing you described, I confirmed with the UI. It's only available for interaction model, not Alexa Conversations.
I love that tool. When I build skills, that's where I start now. As I go through and I build a bunch of sample utterances, and I say, this is what the intent it should hit. This is the thing that should happen. And then I go build an interaction model. It's
kind of like test-driven development. Like you've described that to me in the past, and I think it's brilliant.
It feels
to define that, run, have everything fail, and then build out.
Nothing I'm doing is brilliant. So let's pause for just a moment. But it is very much like test-driven development, and it always feels like the right way. And then you start to let that get away from you, and then you run into issues. And if you could just stick to the testing model, like your life will be so much easier later. But it's hard to convince people because they want to be faster or get it done sooner. Okay. Brian Tarbox, on another topic, I've applied to have my skill live on the show homepage. I got no response. Any sense of when that program will open more? I know the answer is no. Yes, you know that I have no idea at all when those programs will be released. But I think you're referring to some of the stuff that was announced during Alexa Live and during the fall launch event when we announced things like the Echo Show 15. We did talk about how the Echo Show will have the ability to show widgets and some other things to have skills highlighted, and people could fill out a form to ask for access to that. I have no insight whatsoever into when a lot of those things are going to happen. But you would know if they were taking action, because they will send a "I'm sorry you were not selected" kind of email or something like that if that was the case. Okay. Startup wants to know, what is the physics behind that recognizing talking to Alexa versus talking to others? That is science that I'm not equipped to explain to anyone. But I know with a lot of the new functionality that you see, especially on the newer modern devices, where I think we talked about this last week, right? There's the it's not hypersonic, but there's the ultrasonic recognition where it can hear you enter a room. I think it's probably leaning into a lot of the same science behind that, if I had to guess. But
so in the past, like we've described, like why does Alexa listen to you all the time, blah blah blah. And I've said in the past that the actual device is really stupid and everything is done in the cloud. It can only listen to the wake word. That is completely false, except when you start talking about like the sophistication of the microphones and the ability to detect sound. I feel really guilty that I said in the past it's a really stupid device, because that part is really, 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 really complicated.
Right.
So it's impressive. And we have this documented in different places, and we've done videos and we've done tech talks on like the acoustics and the sound of it. And I think we have YouTube videos from the past that go into just how sophisticated these devices are getting with all the different hardware built into them.
Right. I mean, even the original Echo Dot was a landmark in the kinds of science and technology we do with audio. The fact that they embedded 7 microphones and were creating this kind of beam so they could recognize where the sound was coming from and then block out all the noise that isn't coming from that direction and listen just in the place that they want to hear. I mean, that honestly, more than speech recognition or speech synthesis, that was the technology that made things like Alexa possible. Because that was one of the challenges that, and I've interviewed tons and tons of scientists from our Amazon Science Organization on Alexa and Friends about this specific topic. They were very capable in a laboratory environment of synthesizing and understanding speech very, very well. But the moment you put it in a crowded room, or the moment you put it across a room that had a bunch of ambient noise, everything in their lab fell apart. And it wasn't until we started playing with microphones and thinking about the synthesis of the sound and how we recognize the direction, that's what made Alexa possible. I'm sure there was a number of other technical hurdles to get over as well, but that was the big one that stands out to me. Yeah. All right, here we go. Contentious question for you, Scott. This is from Ethan Richardson on YouTube. Who do you contact on the Alexa team if a skill could be politically contentious and could be seen as problematic for Amazon from a PR perspective? He continues, how does freedom of speech relate to Alexa skills? Obviously not encroaching on to hate speech as defined in the Alexa T's and C's, especially in the US.
Wow. I have to go.
Well, I feel like you might have a good grasp on some of this policy stuff, right? Like,
yeah. So you kind of hit it right in the head there. Like when you encroach into hate speech, you're done. That's it. Mm-hmm. You might actually be banned. That's all. Freedom of speech is allowed. We like people to talk. There's no limit on what you can do. But and there are a lot of political skills. There are a lot of very informative fact skills. What you're talking about is a fact skill. But the trick is that they have to be facts. That's pretty much it. If it's divisive or misinformation, well, I mean, define divisive. This is a really hard subject. We'd have to have a much longer conversation. But the fact is that I know that they will pull a skill if it doesn't serve anybody but to make people angry. You know, Alexa needs to have a good experience, and you know, we have opened this up entirely to the public. So naturally, we expect people to put all kinds of stuff on there. We want the culture to grow, obviously, but not if it's just going to be people spewing anger all the time. I mean, define it how you want. For what I would consider to be a very angry, not necessary skill might not be for someone else. But the bottom line here is that what it really comes down to is truth, or not truth, but facts, not truth. Oh my God. Facts. If your skill is stating facts, then it's stating facts. It could be about ducks. It could be about a political candidate. It doesn't matter. You can have these things, and there are political radio talk shows that are on Alexa. We have a lot of them on all sides. And I say both sides, on all sides. So it's fine. Freedom of speech is encouraged. We have rules for it. That's all. That's really what it comes down to. Keeping in mind that this is a private service, technically. This is a private company that issues rules in order for it to. In order for our product to be functioning in the way we want it to function. That being, we don't draw a lot of lines in the sand, but there are a few, so we never suppress freedom of speech, but at the same time, we're not going to encourage anything that involves the oppression or suppression of another group of people.
Right.
So
that's good. So Ethan had one more question on this, and then we can move on. He can't give more details as to what it's related to. It's a project under NDA. But it's a general question on the freedom of speech and Alexa skills. Are there T's and C's around this? Yes, there are. Mm-hmm. And you can find those in the certification guidelines. Who could be a point of contact? That's a trickier question. I don't know that there is necessarily a specific point of contact, but I think that if you fundamentally disagree or feel like that the T's and C's and the certification guidelines prevent you from publishing something that you think should be allowed to be published, that feels like a contact us request to me that can be escalated to the appropriate person. The nice thing about contact us, and I'll put this up here for any of you that may not be aware, you can just go here, alexa.design/contact us. By going here, you can complain about anything. You can talk to us about whatever it is that you might have going on, and then it will be responded to. It could be dismissed if it's just silly or whatever. But if it's a serious thing that you want us to take seriously, we'll try to get it to the right person to have those conversations and get you a response. It may not be the response you like, but we can get you a response.
Yeah, it's kind of an uphill battle, honestly. Like the policies are driven for everyone. They're for everybody. That's what Alexa's for, and it's not for one group of people or two or at all. It's for everyone. So, but yeah, right as said, we have a policy team devoted to this exact subject. So happily, yeah, write us and we'll set you up to the right people.
So Ethan, contact us, I think, is the right way to go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very curious about what you're working on, but
yeah, me too now. Actually,
I don't have a better answer for you than contact us, I think. So there was a couple of other things. Oxygen Box is of the opinion that the conversation mode is only available on Echo Show 10 and newer devices. So maybe it's using the camera also. While I suspect that could be possible, my belief is that this works on like the latest Echo Dot also. Mm-hmm. And so with that being true, there would be no need to use the camera on the Echo Show 10 if it works without the camera, right?
Don't they rarely use the camera? Isn't like the camera rarely ever used?
Yeah, and for obvious reasons, right? We're doing our very best to make sure people are comfortable with the idea that there is a camera and a microphone sitting on their countertop, and that it's only being used in a responsible way. It took a long time. I mean, I remember when the first Echo came out, and people were like, "I'm not putting a microphone in my house." Well, then they realized, oh, there's a ton of utility, and it plays music, and it does all this other stuff for me. I guess a microphone's okay, and I can always mute it whenever I want to. Like, I think there's a lot of good that comes from it, but it's that constant argument we have about software.
Yeah, there's already one.
A little bit is right. You already have that microphone.
Yeah, it's fully functional. It has been for years.
It's a little bit of privacy and security worth the utility of whatever the service or product is. And so, yes, you are certainly giving a microphone the opportunity to listen. It's not, at least in our case, I know it's not. But there's that opportunity. And are you willing to give that opportunity in the case that you might also have all of this other beneficial stuff, like turning your lights on and off and closing your garage and checking your messages or your calendar? Like, it's an awesome device that does so many cool things. I'm willing to make a little compromise there, and I think that's how most things go. All right, we are at the time. I don't have any other standout questions that can be answered quickly. TradeLast on Twitch did provide a useful link. I'll share that here on the screen briefly. But he found a link all about the science of the conversation mode. So that would be a worthwhile read. That's over on the Amazon Science website, which is amazon.science. And you can find that article was just published this week, I believe. So it might be worthwhile for you to all check out. But with that, I hope everybody that is celebrating it here in the United States has a fantastic Thanksgiving and hopefully a nice long weekend. If not, I hope you have an awesome weekend nonetheless. Ryan and I will be at reInvent, hopefully with some interesting things to share with all of you next Tuesday. And there's just more to come from there. The following week will be at the Voice Summit in Washington, D.C. If you haven't gotten tickets or you'd like to go, they're still available. You can go to voicesummit.ai to check out that conference. Then we'll be we have to figure out how office hours are going to work during the holidays, if we're going to have them or not. But then coming back in the new year, I will be at CES the first week of January, and the second week I will be at a software development conference called CodeMap here in Ohio. So I was just writing my out of office message. My out of office starts tomorrow afternoon and runs until January 17th. So,
do you need an assistant for CES? I will be very quiet. I barely even eat anything. I can write in your luggage. It's fine.
Right. I'm open to that concept. Let's talk. I don't want to put too much.
Nice try. Nice try.
It is pretty awesome. Okay, with that, thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll see you all very soon. Take care.